There is a lock on your front door. You paid for it. You installed it. You sleep better at night because of it. But what if I told you that lock only keeps out the amateurs? What if the real intruders, the ones who know what you ate for breakfast, what time you went to bed, and what you whispered to your partner in the kitchen last Tuesday night, what if they were already inside, not hiding in your closet, not crouched beneath your window? They are sitting in plain sight on your kitchen counter, mounted on your wall, plugged into your electrical outlet, and you invited every single one of them in. You paid for them. You set them up on a Saturday afternoon. You even gave them a name. Hey Alexa. Okay Google. Hey Siri. You named your spy. You gave it a friendly voice, and now it listens to everything. This is a story they do not want you to think about. Not because it is classified, not because it is hidden behind some government firewall, but because the moment you actually sit down and think about what is happening inside your own home, the moment you trace the wires and follow the data and ask the uncomfortable question of who is on the other end, you will realize something that changes the way you look at every glowing screen in your house. The most intimate space in your life, the place where you are supposed to be free, is now the most surveilled environment you will ever enter. More surveilled than the street corner with the camera. More surveilled than the airport terminal. More watched than a federal courtroom. Your living room. Let me paint you a picture. It is a Tuesday evening, sometime around 7:30. You walk through your front door after a long day. You kick off your shoes. You tell your smart speaker to play something relaxing. The lights adjust automatically because your smart bulbs know your routine. Your thermostat has already set the temperature to 68 degrees because it tracked your phone's GPS and knew you were 12 minutes away. The security camera on your porch recorded you pulling into the driveway. The smart lock logged your entry at 7:31. Your television is already suggesting shows based on what you watched last night. Your refrigerator, if you have one of the newer models, has noted that you are low on milk and added it to a shopping list synced to your phone. You sink into the couch. You feel at home. You feel safe. And in that exact moment, at least 7 different corporations know you are there. They know your location. They know your habits. They know your preferences. They know your schedule. And every single byte of that information is being packaged, transmitted, stored, analyzed, and in many cases, sold. You did not agree to this. Or rather, you did, buried somewhere on page 47 of a terms of service document that would take you 9 hours to read, written in legal language, designed to make your eyes glaze over before you reach the second paragraph. Now, I know what you are thinking. I have nothing to hide. That is the sentence that built this entire machine. That is the thought they are counting on. And it is the most dangerous lie of the 21st century. Because privacy was never about hiding. Privacy is about power. And the moment you understand that distinction, the entire game changes. Let me take you back, way back, before the internet, before Silicon Valley, before anyone had ever dreamed of a device that could listen to you in your sleep. Let me take you to 1929. The stock market has just collapsed. America is on its knees. Banks are shutting their doors. Families are lining up for bread. And in the wreckage of that financial catastrophe, something interesting begins to happen. The American home becomes sacred. Not in a religious sense, but in a psychological one. When the economy fell apart, when the institutions failed, when the government could not feed its own people, the home became the last fortress, the one thing a family could control. The dinner table became the boardroom. The front porch became the watchtower. Your four walls were the only territory you could defend. And, for decades, that idea held. The home was untouchable. It was private. It was yours. Through the 1930s and into the 40s, even as the government expanded its reach during wartime, even as propaganda poured through the radio waves, there was an unspoken agreement in American life. What happens inside your house is your business. The mailman does not read your letters. The phone company does not listen to your calls. The census taker counts your family and moves on. There were boundaries. There were lines. Not because people were saints, but because everyone understood a basic truth. A society that watches its citizens inside their own homes is not a free society. It is a prison with better furniture. Now fast forward to the 1950s. The war is over. The economy is booming. And something new arrives in the American living room. The television. It is a beautiful machine. A glowing box that brings the world into your home. Families gather around it like a campfire. They watch the news together. They watch comedies together. They watch advertisements together. And here is where the story takes its first dark turn. Because television was not just a window to the world, it was the world's first window into your home. Not literally, not yet. But psychologically, the television cracked the door open. For the first time in history, corporations could reach inside your living room and shape what you thought, what you wanted, what you feared. They could not see you, but they could influence you. They studied your viewing habits. They designed commercials around your insecurities. They figured out that if they could get inside your head while you sat on your own couch, they did not need to knock on your door. They were already in. A man named Edward Bernays had figured this out decades earlier. Bernays, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, had taken his uncle's theories about the unconscious mind and turned them into a weapon. Not a weapon of war, but a weapon of commerce. In the 1920s, Bernays proved that you could make people buy things they did not need by connecting products to their deepest emotions. He did not sell cigarettes to women. He sold them torches of freedom, linking smoking to the suffrage movement, to independence, to power. He understood something that most people still do not grasp. You do not sell a product, you sell a feeling. And the best place to sell a feeling is in the place where a person feels the most, their home. So the television became the delivery system. By the late 1950s, over 80% of American households had one. Advertisers spent billions. They learned which time slots attracted which audiences. They learned that a mother watching a daytime soap opera was more likely to buy a certain brand of detergent. They learned that a father watching a football game on a Sunday afternoon was more likely to respond to an ad for a pickup truck. They were not listening through the screen. They did not have to. They had to build a psychological profile of the American home, room by room, hour by hour, and it worked. Consumption exploded. The suburbs expanded. The two-car garage became a symbol of success. And all of it, every single purchase, every lifestyle choice, every aspiration, was being quietly engineered by people who had never set foot inside your house, but knew exactly what was happening there. That was the blueprint. That was the prototype. Television was version 1. And for 50 years, it was enough. But then came the internet. And the internet changed everything. Because suddenly, the window was not one way anymore. Suddenly, the screen could see you back. Think about this for a moment. When you watched a television commercial in 1965, the advertiser knew roughly who was watching, based on the time slot and the channel. That was it. They were guessing. Educated guessing, but guessing. Now, in the 2020s, when you scroll past an advertisement on your phone, the company behind that ad knows your name, your age, your location down to the meter, your income bracket, your relationship status, your recent purchases, your medical searches, your political leanings, the last 5 restaurants you visited, the music you listened to this morning, how long you slept last night. This is not surveillance in the traditional sense. There's no man in a van outside your house with binoculars. This is something far more elegant and far more terrifying. This is surveillance that you carry in your pocket, surveillance that you strap to your wrist, surveillance that you plug into your wall and ask to tell you the weather. Let me walk you through the mechanics, because the devil is in the details and nobody reads the details. Your smart speaker, the one sitting on your shelf right now, is equipped with an array of microphones designed to pick up your voice from across the room, even when there is music playing, even when the television is on. The companies that manufacture these devices insist they are only listening for the wake word, that little trigger phrase that activates the system. But here is what they are less eager to talk about. In order to hear the wake word, the device must be listening to everything. It is processing audio constantly, running it through algorithms, waiting for the match. And those recordings, they do not always stay on the device. In 2019, Bloomberg reported that Amazon employed thousands of people around the world to listen to voice recordings captured by echo devices. Real people, sitting in offices in Boston and Bucharest and India, listening to what you said in your kitchen. They were supposedly reviewing the recordings to improve the accuracy of the system. But the recordings included deeply private moments, arguments, medical conversations. In at least 2 cases, recordings that sounded like domestic disturbances, and the workers flagged them, discussed them, and moved on to the next clip. Your kitchen, your words, their spreadsheet. And it is not just the speakers. Your smart television is tracking what you watch, how long you watch it, and when you pause. In 2017, Vizio, one of the largest television manufacturers in America, was caught collecting viewing data from 11 million televisions without the owner's knowledge. They were selling that data to third parties. The fine? $2.2 million. A rounding error for a corporation that size. The cost of doing business. The practice? It continued, just with slightly better disclosure buried in updated terms of service. Your robot vacuum cleaner, the one that maps your home to navigate around furniture, is building a detailed floor plan of your house. In 2017, the CEO of iRobot, the company behind the Roomba, openly discussed the possibility of sharing those home maps with third parties like Amazon, Apple, or Google. He later walked the comments back after public backlash. But the technology is there. The data exists. And once data exists, it has a way of finding a buyer. Your smart doorbell records everyone who walks up to your front door. It captures their face, their body, the time of their visit. Law enforcement agencies across the United States have established partnerships with doorbell camera companies, most notably Ring, which is owned by Amazon. In some cases, police can request footage from your doorbell without a warrant. Not from a government surveillance camera, from your camera. The one you bought to feel safe. The one mounted on your home. Your security device has become their surveillance device. And you are paying the monthly subscription. This is the system. Not one device, not one company, but an ecosystem. A web of interconnected sensors, microphones, cameras, and algorithms that collectively turn your home into a data factory. And the product of that factory is you, your habits, your preferences, your vulnerabilities, your routines, packaged up and sold on a data market that most people do not even know exists. Data brokers, companies whose entire business model is buying and selling personal information, operate in a space with almost no regulation. A single data profile, your profile, can be bought for less than $1. It contains your name, your address, your estimated income, your shopping habits, your health concerns, your political affiliation. For less than the cost of a cup of coffee, a stranger can know more about you than your closest friend. And the real trick, the part that would make Bernays smile from beyond the grave, is that they got you to build this system yourself. Nobody forced you to buy a smart speaker. Nobody held a gun to your head and said, install a camera in your baby's nursery that streams to a cloud server in Virginia. You did it because it was convenient, because the ads made it look sleek and modern and necessary, because your neighbor had one, because it was on sale during Prime Day. The trap was not set with force. It was set with comfort, with a friendly voice that says, sure, I can help with that, with a device that dims the lights when you say goodnight. The cage is made of convenience, and the bars are so smooth you cannot feel them. Now here is where most people expect me to tell you to throw your phone in the river and move to a cabin in Montana. That is not what this is about. That is fantasy. That is not a solution. That is a surrender. You do not fight a system by running from it. You fight it by understanding it and then making deliberate choices. The first step is the hardest one. It is not a purchase. It is not a download. It is a shift in how you think. You have to stop seeing these devices as helpers and start seeing them as transactions. Every time your smart speaker responds to a command, there is a transaction. You get convenience. They get data. Every time your fitness tracker logs your heart rate, there is a transaction. You get health information. An insurance company you have never heard of gets a risk profile. Every time your smart TV recommends a show, there is a transaction. You get entertainment. An advertising network gets a psychological fingerprint. Once you start seeing the exchange, you cannot unsee it. And that is the point. The second step is an audit. Walk through your home. Count the devices that are connected to the internet. Your phone, your television, your speaker, your thermostat, your doorbell, your vacuum, your refrigerator, your light bulbs, your baby monitor, your watch. Count them. Write the number down. That is, how many open channels exist between your private life and a corporate server. Now, ask yourself a simple question for each one. Do I need this connected? Does my light bulb need to report to a data center in order to turn on? Does my thermostat need to know my GPS location, or could I just adjust it manually? Does my doorbell need to send footage to a cloud server owned by one of the 5 largest corporations on the planet, or could a local storage system do the same job without the data export? These are not paranoid questions. These are engineering questions. You are simply asking how the machine works and whether every part of it is necessary. The third step is to reclaim the walls. And I mean that literally. For thousands of years, walls meant something. A wall was a boundary, a declaration. This side is mine, that side is yours. The earliest human civilizations understood that a home without walls was not a home. It was just a place you slept. The walls were the contract between you and the world. And I will participate in society. I will trade. I will contribute. But when I close this door, I am sovereign. That idea is not outdated. It is not nostalgic. It is the foundation of every free society that has ever existed. And the smart home, as it is currently designed, has dissolved those walls, not with a battering ram, but with a Wi-Fi signal. There are practical steps you can take. You can disable always-on microphones. You can opt out of data sharing in your device settings. And yes, those settings exist. They are just buried intentionally deep. You can use a network-level ad blocker to prevent your devices from phoning home. You can replace cloud-dependent devices with local alternatives. You can read the privacy policies, not all 9 hours of them, but the sections on data collection and third-party sharing. You can support legislation that treats personal data the way we treat personal property, as something that cannot be taken without explicit, informed, freely given consent. But more than any of that, you can make a decision, a quiet, personal, revolutionary decision. You can decide that your home is not a product, that your habits are not inventory, that your voice, captured in the intimacy of your own kitchen at 7:30 on a Tuesday night, is not raw material for a machine that sees you as a data point and nothing more. There was a time not so long ago when closing your front door meant something. It meant the world stopped at your threshold. It meant you could exhale. It meant you were, for a few hours at least, free from being watched, measured, categorized, and sold. That time is not gone, but it will not come back on its own. You have to rebuild those walls yourself, not with bricks and mortar, but with awareness, with intention, with the stubborn, old-fashioned belief that some spaces should be sacred. Your home should be the one place on earth where you are not a consumer, not a data set, not a target demographic. It should be the one place where you are just a person, sitting on a couch, listening to the rain, thinking thoughts that belong to nobody but you. The lock on your front door still works, but it is time to ask yourself what you are really locking out, and more importantly, what you have already let in.